It is early 2026. Headlines still repeat the phrase "great wealth transfer," suggesting that trillions quietly moved from one group to another as if wealth simply changed hands in an orderly exchange. That story is false. Nothing was transferred in the way people were led to believe. There was no mass handoff from old to young, no broad redistribution across society. What happened instead was something far more precise and far more damaging. Purchasing power was extracted, concentrated, and trapped inside protected structures, while the public was told to celebrate participation. The myth of the great wealth transfer exists to distract from this reality. A transfer implies movement between peers. What occurred was removal. Value did not flow outward. It flowed upward and inward into balance sheets, asset prices, and institutional protections that ordinary participants could not access. This did not happen through confiscation. It happened through debasement. As currencies expanded, money did not lose value evenly. It lost value selectively. Those closest to asset issuance, governments, banks, corporations, and financial markets, received new currency first. They deployed it into stocks, bonds, real estate, and hard assets before prices adjusted. Everyone else received it later, after dilution had already occurred. That timing difference is the mechanism. Wages lagged, savings decayed, fixed incomes collapsed in real terms. Meanwhile, asset prices surged and were labeled wealth creation. The public was told this was a transfer they were participating in. In reality, they were absorbing the cost. This is why charts looked strong while life became unaffordable. The system did not move wealth from one generation to another. It moved value from currency holders to asset holders. That distinction matters. One is redistribution. The other is extraction. The language was chosen carefully. Calling it a transfer made it sound natural, even fair. Calling it what it was, systematic dilution, would have exposed the design. This pattern is not new. It appeared in Rome when debased coins enriched landowners and impoverished soldiers. It appeared in Weimar when hyperinflation wiped out savers while factories changed hands cheaply. It appeared after 1971 when asset markets soared and wages stagnated. The same structure is operating now, only at global scale. The great wealth transfer is not something that happened to benefit the public. It is the story told to explain why they lost purchasing power without realizing where it went. And before you can understand where the money went, you have to abandon the lie that it was ever meant to move fairly at all. The thesis: how debasement disguises extraction. The great wealth transfer narrative exists to hide a mechanical process. Wealth did not move because of demographic change or generational timing. It moved because the system entered a phase where debasement became the primary operating tool. This is not ideology, it is structure. History follows a fixed four-stage cycle because all monetary systems collide with the same constraint: physical reality. Stage one is hard money and alignment. Money is anchored to something real. Gold, silver, land, or productive output limit expansion. Claims remain close to reality. Asset prices reflect usefulness. Wages track productivity. Inequality exists, but it is bounded. The system feels slow and stable because discipline is enforced by scarcity. Stage two is expansion and abstraction. Success creates leverage. Credit expands faster than output. Financial instruments multiply. Claims become detached from settlement. Asset prices rise faster than wages. This is framed as innovation and progress. The system still functions because confidence remains intact, even as discipline erodes. Stage three is distortion and protection. Debt overtakes productivity. Authorities intervene to stabilize markets. Liquidity replaces liquidation. Risk is absorbed upward while gains remain private. Currency creation accelerates, but its effects are uneven. Those nearest to issuance benefit first. Those dependent on wages and savings absorb dilution later. Extraction begins quietly. Stage four is the reset. The system cannot honor its promises in real terms. It does not announce failure. It manages it. Inflation replaces default. Accounting replaces truth. Wealth concentrates where assets are protected and drains from where income is fixed. This stage is not chaotic. It is administrative. The present system is no longer approaching this phase. It is operating inside it. Debasement is not rising prices. Rising prices are a symptom. Debasement is the process of expanding claims faster than reality. When this happens, money loses function as a store of value and becomes a conduit for extraction. This is why the transfer feels invisible. Nothing is seized, accounts remain intact, numbers increase, but purchasing power collapses. The loss is real, but it is hidden behind nominal gains. The public is told this is temporary. It is told participation will catch up. Those promises are impossible to fulfill because the mechanism requires imbalance to continue. Once stage four begins, reversal is mathematically impossible. Restraint would collapse the asset structures that now support the system, so debasement continues until resolution forces itself. The great wealth transfer did not move wealth broadly, it concentrated it silently, and it did so by design. Historical proof: the rule of three. The idea that wealth transfers broadly collapses the moment history is examined honestly. When debasement begins, value does not circulate, it concentrates. This is not accidental, and it is not new. Every major monetary breakdown shows the same mechanical behavior once claims grow faster than reality. Rome, Weimar Germany, and the post-1971 system are not analogies. They are confirmations of the same process. Rome is the first proof. Rome's early stability rested on monetary credibility. The silver denarius contained real metal of consistent weight. Soldiers accepted it for pay, merchants accepted it for trade, the state accepted it for taxes. Money functioned because settlement was physical. Value moved slowly because the unit of account enforced discipline. Expansion destroyed that alignment. Legions multiplied, borders expanded, roads, fortifications, and administration grew. Political loyalty became expensive. Taxation reached its limit. Rome faced the same constraint every empire eventually faces: restrain ambition or alter the money. Rome altered the money. Under Emperor Nero, the silver content of the denarius was reduced. The coin looked the same. Its legal value remained enforced. The change was framed as administrative necessity. This was the first fracture between appearance and substance. From that moment forward, value stopped flowing evenly. Debasement accelerated across generations. Each emperor reduced silver content further to fund immediate obligations. By the 3rd century, Rome introduced the Antoninianus, officially valued at 2 denarii while containing far less than double the silver. This was not innovation. It was desperation disguised as reform. Prices responded immediately. Soldiers demanded more coins for the same service. Merchants raised prices to protect themselves from dilution. Long-term contracts collapsed. Savings lost meaning. Enforcement replaced trust. Taxes were demanded in harder terms while wages were paid in debased coin. Value did not disappear. It moved. Landowners, grain holders, and those closest to state contracts preserved purchasing power. Wage earners and savers absorbed the loss. Rome did not experience a fair transfer across society. It experienced extraction from currency holders and concentration among asset holders. Once debasement became permanent, the reset was unavoidable. Weimar Germany is the second proof. In 1923, Germany faced reparations totaling 132 billion gold marks. Gold marks were not symbolic. They represented fixed weight in metal. Germany did not possess the reserves required to pay. The obligation was mathematically impossible to settle honestly. The state chose printing. At first, the system appeared to recover. Industrial output rose on paper. Equity prices surged. Nominal wealth exploded. To the public, it looked like improvement. In reality, it was debasement becoming visible. As printing accelerated, velocity followed. Holding cash became irrational. Prices rose not because of speculation, but because the currency was failing. Bread prices moved from 160 marks to billions, then hundreds of billions. Savings were erased. Fixed incomes collapsed. Value moved again, not evenly, but predictably. Those with access to credit and assets converted marks into factories, machinery, land, and inventory. Exporters held foreign settlements. Those dependent on wages, pensions, and bank deposits were wiped out. Hyperinflation did not destroy value. It relocated. The chart did not first signal panic. It signaled acceleration. Assets went vertical because the measuring unit was collapsing. People believed they were getting richer while losing real purchasing power. By the time recognition arrived, the extraction was complete. This is why Weimar is so often misunderstood. The failure was not emotional. It was mechanical. Once confidence broke, arithmetic enforced reality. No policy could reverse it without restoring the anchor, and restoring the anchor would have collapsed the state immediately. The United States and Britain after 1971 formed the third proof. After World War II, the Bretton Woods system anchored global currencies to the US dollar and the dollar to gold. This imposed discipline. Claims could not expand infinitely because settlement required metal. That restraint ended in 1971. On August 15, 1971, President Nixon closed the gold window. Bretton Woods ended. The final physical constraint was removed. The dollar became pure credit. This created the exorbitant privilege, the ability to issue global claims without immediate settlement. What followed was not shared prosperity. It was structural divergence. Debt expanded faster than production. Financial markets grew larger than the real economy. Asset prices rose faster than wages. Saving in currency became punishment. Speculation replaced productivity. The public was told this was growth. It was debasement. Value moved toward assets protected by policy. Equities, real estate, bonds, and balance sheets, while labor income and savings lagged. The system did not seize wealth directly. It diluted purchasing power while preserving nominal values. Accounts grew. Buying power shrank. Across all three cases, the same sequence appears with no exception. First, money functions because it is constrained. Second, obligations exceed capacity. Third, the constraint is diluted or removed. Fourth, nominal values rise sharply. Finally, purchasing power transfers from currency holders to asset holders. This is the rule of three. The reason the great wealth transfer story persists is timing. Elites recognize the mechanism early because they see settlement risk. In Rome, they held land and food. In Weimar, factories and foreign currency. After 1971, diversified assets and leverage. The public recognizes it late because losses arrive as gradual price increases, not visible confiscation. Debasement never announces itself. It operates through accounting. Inflation is not rising prices. Rising prices are evidence that money is failing as a measuring stick. The real event is the collapse of the unit of account. What is called a transfer is actually extraction followed by concentration. Value does not move sideways. It moves inward, toward assets insulated from dilution. History leaves no ambiguity. Whenever debasement becomes policy, exchange is replaced by extraction. Whenever extraction replaces exchange, the outcome is locked. The mechanism does not malfunction. It completes. The modern trap, where the money actually went in. The modern system did not lose wealth. It redirected it with precision. What makes the present cycle difficult to see is that nothing visibly breaks. Markets function, banks operate, accounts update. Yet purchasing power drains steadily from households, while capital structures harden and expand. This is the trap. After 2008, and then again after 2020, authorities chose the same solution every time stress appeared: liquidity instead of liquidation. Losses that should have cleared were absorbed upward. Balance sheets expanded. Rates were suppressed. Asset prices were stabilized aggressively. This prevented collapse, but it also rewired where value could exist. New money did not flow evenly through society. It entered through financial channels. Governments borrowed. Central banks purchased assets. Banks refinanced. Corporations issued debt. That capital moved directly into equities, bonds, real estate, and strategic assets before prices adjusted. By the time wages and savings felt the impact, dilution had already occurred. This is not corruption. It is architecture. The system is designed to protect balance sheets because balance sheets anchor credit. Allowing asset prices to fall would collapse collateral values and trigger cascading defaults. To avoid that, purchasing power is sacrificed instead. Inflation becomes the release valve. Households experience this as rising costs without explanation. Rent increases even when buildings do not improve. Energy bills rise even when consumption falls. Food prices climb faster than wages. Insurance premiums jump because volatility becomes permanent. None of this is framed as wealth loss. It is framed as adjustment. Meanwhile, asset holders experience the opposite. Equity prices recover rapidly after every shock. Real estate is backstopped by policy and financing. Debt is refinanced at scale. Losses are deferred indefinitely. Paper wealth appears intact, even expanding, while real affordability collapses. This is why the idea of a broad wealth transfer is misleading. Nothing moved horizontally across society. Value moved vertically into protected layers of the system. Those layers are not accessible to wage earners whose wealth exists primarily as income and cash savings. The middle class sits at the point of maximum exposure. They hold currency, they rely on wages, they depend on fixed contracts, they cannot access early issuance, they receive diluted money late after prices adjust. Their losses arrive slowly, through erosion, not seizure. This is also why the system insists on measuring success through markets rather than living standards. Markets reflect nominal values inside a protected currency loop. Living standards reflect physical reality. When the two diverge, markets are celebrated and reality is ignored. The modern trap is believing that rising numbers equal rising wealth. They do not. They often signal the opposite, that the unit of account is weakening. When money loses integrity, everything priced in it appears to rise. That rise is not gain, it is concealment. This is why physical constraints matter now more than ever. Energy, housing, food, and infrastructure cannot be printed. When currency supply expands faster than these inputs, prices rise permanently. No policy can reverse that without destroying the asset structures now dependent on constant expansion. So the system continues. Debasement replaces discipline. Accounting replaces truth. Narratives replace explanation. The question is not whether wealth was transferred. The question is where purchasing power settled after dilution. The answer is clear: into assets shielded from currency decay and away from income streams tied to it. This is stage 4 behavior. The system cannot stop without imploding itself. It cannot admit the trade-off without triggering panic, so it manages decline quietly through inflation, fees, and cost of living pressure. The Great Wealth Transfer was never a shared event. It was the story told to explain why most people lost purchasing power while nothing appeared to collapse. And until the mechanism resolves, that quiet extraction continues. The lie exposed the phrase great wealth transfer survives because it offers comfort. It suggests order, balance, and fairness. What actually occurred was none of those things. Wealth did not pass broadly from one group to another. Purchasing power was drained from where it was weakest and consolidated where it was protected. This is how monetary systems end. No accounts are frozen, no wealth is seized publicly, numbers continue to rise. Yet the ability to convert money into stability, housing, energy, security, time, shrinks relentlessly. This is not accidental. It is the final expression of debasing a currency to preserve a structure that can no longer sustain itself honestly. The system chose inflation over default. That choice guarantees one outcome. Paper claims absorb the loss. Physical assets retain control. This is not ideology or injustice. It is arithmetic. The reset does not arrive as a crash. It arrives as permanence. Higher costs never return to prior levels. Savings never recover lost purchasing power. Wages never catch up. The extraction is complete long before recognition spreads. Calling this a transfer is the lie. It was extraction followed by concentration. It was policy dressed as inevitability. It was the mechanism completing its cycle. Subscribe to Epoch Atlas to understand how these systems are built, how debasement operates, and why history always resolves the same way when paper outgrows reality. This is not alarm. It is structure.